Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And I want to wish you all a happy Easter once again. And I know a lot of you are going to be talking about crypto at the dinner table. I don't plan on talking about crypto this year. I think crypto speaks for itself at this point. But if you're going to talk about XRP, right here is the best way to describe and talk about XRP. It tells you how to get started with investing into XRP. It tells you about the problems that XRP solves. It gives you the quick stats and what you need to know. But you know, this year is a lot different than last year. Last year, I just mentioned it in that previous video. XRP was around 50 cents, going sideways, moving up and down by less than a penny on some days. This year, we're above $2 and XRP is going sideways, and everyone's predicting a massive breakout to happen at any moment. What a difference a year makes. Plus, we have a pro-crypto administration in the White House. No more crypto crackdown. And you know, a lot of the maxis have been very harsh towards Brad Garlinghouse. But take a listen to what Brad says here about Bitcoin.
I own Bitcoin. I've owned Bitcoin for a long time. I first bought Bitcoin in 2012, coming out of an event when I was first introduced to it. And I am bullish on Bitcoin, period, full stop. I'll leave it at that. Like, there's lots of other things that people say about me, and I don't think I've ever tried to be anti-Bitcoin. There are things around that statement that people will say, oh, well, Brad said Bitcoin is controlled by China. My response to that is there was a period of time where a vast majority of Bitcoin mining was in China. That is no longer the case, and I think that's good for the industry.
And you own Bitcoin through that period anyway?
For sure, yeah. I own.
And that's how Brad looks at Bitcoin. You know, a lot of you think I hate Bitcoin. I really don't hate Bitcoin. I just don't want to see retail investors, hardworking retail investors, become exit liquidity in Bitcoin. And there's no real return on investment left in Bitcoin for retail investors. What are you going to get? A possible 2x? I mean, you put your money into something that has utility and use case, and all of a sudden you get a 20, 30, 40x. It's going to make a lot of people wealthy. Bitcoin is not going to make new retail investors wealthy. Here's how Ripple CEO championed XRP since joining the firm. You know, a lot of people keep saying that Brad shifted. He doesn't care about XRP. He only cares about RLUSD and Ripple. But Brad has always been very vocal about XRP. In January 2025, a more recent comment emerged during an interview where the Ripple CEO likened XRP's suppressed market value to a basketball held underwater. Notably, this implied that the token's true potential was unrealized, but could soon see explosive growth. All along the years, Brad has talked about XRP multiple times. I mean, they went out there and fought the SEC so XRP would no longer be deemed a security. You think Brad doesn't hold a hell of a lot of XRP? Absolutely he does. You know, there's a good chance if XRP was to break out to above maybe $10, $12, Brad Garlinghouse is going to be one of the richest people in the world. I'm talking like almost trillionaire status. Some people say he would be a trillionaire at $10 plus. Him and Chris Larson. So they absolutely care about XRP. ETF approval could suck up supply like a vacuum and pump the price higher. like I've been saying all along. I think we're going to start to see a lot of XRP disappear. So analyst predicts XRP price could reach $27 if ETF approval goes through. BlackRock's potential ETF involvement could trigger massive XRP demand with its $11 trillion in assets. You know, BlackRock is not buying these assets. They're never going to put this $11 trillion into XRP, just like they were never going to put the $11 trillion into Bitcoin. They buy it with investors' money. That's what they do. But I do see a lot of XRP disappearing through the ETFs. Can it push the price to $27? There's a good chance of that. I've seen other people being more conservative, saying it gets XRP between $12 and $16. It depends on how much XRP gets bought up. And it all depends on the demand. We know the demand is very high for the XRP ETFs. This comes from Blue Hawk Legend. JP Morgan says XRP ETFs would only bring $8 billion of inflows the first year, when Bitcoin did $36 billion. Something that is actually useful would do worse than something that's barely being used at all. Like I said, I talked about this in a previous video, and I think JP Morgan is underestimating the demand for XRP. If Bitcoin did 36 billion, I'm expecting 72 billion for XRP in inflows, because I think the demand is much higher for an XRP ETF. And I think JP Morgan, they just want to downplay it, because they always wanted that sweet XRP escrow, but Brad turned them down. And remember, I always tell you, leave your emotions at the door when you become a crypto investor. This comes from Uphold. You will see things you won't believe in your lifetime. Don't move on emotion. If you can stay grounded, you'll outlast the chaos. You'll also outlast others. Take a listen to what Warren Buffett says here.
People behave very peculiarly in terms of the reactions, because they're human beings, and they get excited when others get excited. They get greedy when others get greedy. They get fearful when others get fearful, and they'll continue to do so. And you will see things you won't believe in your lifetime, and securities markets. And the country will do very well over time, but you will see these huge waves. And if you can stay objective throughout that, if you can detach yourself temperamentally from the crowd, you get very rich. And you won't have to be very bright. I mean, I'm sure you are, but
And Warren Buffett is not wrong. I mean, if you can stop following the narrative that's out there, and you put a game plan together and you stick to that game plan and you don't get emotional, you can make a shit ton of money in this space. But if you start following everyone else and you start feeding off of the FUD that's out there as well. In other words, when somebody says the market's going to dip on this day and you start believing that, you will fall into their trap. You know why the whales are whales in this space? You know why there's millionaires in this space? Because they are feeding off of human emotion. They know how you're going to react when the market dips. They know how you're going to react when the market goes up. So they're already predicting that as soon as a dip happens, the weak hands are going to sell and they're going to buy up that XRP. And that's going to continue to happen and continue to happen even as demand rises and the price rises. You're going to have sellers at so many different price points because they're selling because this guy over here is telling them that the top is now in. You got to leave your emotions at the door. You got to be able to stomach the dips as well. You know, most of us are numb to these dips already. You know, I see a dip happening and I'm like, okay, XRP's dipping today. and I'm used to it. But I just hold through it, or I buy the dip, because there's no other time to buy crypto, and is when there's blood in the streets. When there's blood in the streets, you should be buying as much as you can. New on Medium, the hidden burden of sudden wealth. A lot of you are about to experience sudden wealth because you're going to watch your portfolio take off very fast. When XRP breaks out, you are going to be shocked. You're going to have sleepless nights looking at your portfolio. And I hope every one of your portfolios look like phone numbers when it happens. But you're going to watch your investment do a 10x from here. And then you're going to watch it go on to do a 20x. And you're going to be saying to yourself, wow, I cannot believe I made this amount of money. But what comes with sudden wealth is a lot of problems. Identity disruption. When your financial situation changes dramatically, your sense of self can become untethered. Who are you now that money isn't a limitation? What defines your worth if not your work? A lot of people are going to have money change them. Money will never change me because I look at money as something that you can make anytime. You could go out and find ways to make more money. One thing that I hold priceless is time. That's why I always tell you, your time is more valuable to me than money. And that's why I don't shill a bunch of shit on this channel. I don't want your money. I want you to take your money, invest it, and make money off of your money. And, I always looked at time as being more valuable than money. But money is going to change a lot of people when they get suddenly wealthy. Decision fatigue. With more options comes more decisions. Should you invest in stocks or real estate, give to charity or save for the future, help family members, or set boundaries? The mental toll of constant decision making is exhausting. That's why you create your game plan now, before the money shows up, and you stick to that game plan. If you want to open a business, you're going to have the money to open a business. So now you figure out what kind of business you want to open. Is it going to be a turnkey business? And then when it comes to giving charity, there's nothing wrong with that. I always like to help people out as well. So think about it like this. You have to set a boundary to that, though. Because once you start helping out family members, all of a sudden, every family member now wants help. Isolation and relationship strain. Money changes relationships in unexpected ways. Friends may feel uncomfortable around your new lifestyle. Family members might expect financial support. Finding genuine connections become increasingly difficult. If you could get rich and not tell anyone that you just got super rich off of crypto, that's a better path forward. This way you don't make things uncomfortable, but your friends are going to know you made a lot of money. But think about it like this. What have you been doing for the past year, the past 2 years, 3 years? You've been telling all your friends how to get rich off of crypto. You've been telling them to invest into XRP. So I look at it like this. If my friends don't get wealthy because they didn't get invested, that's not on me. That's on them. Because I know a lot of you probably explain crypto so many times you're tired of explaining it. The financial pitfalls of sudden wealth. Excessive spending. I always tell you about that. If you're going to cash out in this cycle, don't go and buy the Lambo or buy the mansion, because you know what? Those things require upkeep. All of a sudden, that wealth you made starts disappearing. Then you're back here chasing the next big thing. Stick to a plan and stay conservative. Everybody always says, if I cash out of crypto, I'm going to buy a brand new car. I'm going to buy a brand new house. You got to figure out how to put that money to work for you first, so the money doesn't ever dry up. That's why passive income to me is way more important. Poor investment decisions. This is probably the biggest one that people have to avoid. You know, you're going to have friends that have great business ideas. I always tell people, never open a business with your friends. I've seen people do this in the past. I've watched people go into a bar business with friends of theirs. Then all of a sudden the bar folds up and they lose their money. Invest in yourself first. Always invest in yourself. You know what's on the line. You're the one that put up the money. You're going to work hard to make that business successful. If your friend comes into your business, he's not going to put in the time you're going to put in because he has nothing invested. It's all your money. Tax complications. Always take care of the taxes. I'm really hoping Donald Trump does away with capital gains on US-made cryptocurrencies. Legal challenges. There's always legal challenges as well. Make sure you hire a good lawyer. Family financial demands. Perhaps the most emotionally challenging aspect is managing family expectations. Requests for loans, gifts, or investments can strain relationships and deplete resources. I always tell you to have a game plan, and that's what I just told you once again. I want all of you to get financial freedom, but I want you to be able to do the things you want to do and make sure that you always put your money to work for you. And if you're not planning on cashing out, then we'll be talking about passive income options in the very near future, because there's a lot of passive income options opening up on the XRP ledger, and more are going to open up with institutional adoption. But I wanted to do this video today because I'm preparing you for what's about to happen. If we go into a utility run, there's a good chance XRP is going to make a lot of people millionaires in the short term. And even if we have a normal alt season, everybody's going to experience life-changing money over the coming months. But like I always tell you, until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, once again, I want you all to have a happy Easter. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.